What did Korach see to argue on Moshe Rabbeinu? Nitkane al nesiuto shel Elitzaphan ben Uziel. He became jealous from Elitzaphan ben Uziel shemina Moshe nasi al bnei Kehat al pi hadibur, because Moshe Rabbeinu appointed Elitzaphan to be a prince. Amar Korach. Korach says, listen, my father had 4 sons. Amram, he said he had 2 boys. He made both of them. Moshe Rabbeinu made sure that he's the king and his brother's the Kohen Gadol. Okay, so who's the next one? The next one in line is Yitzhar. But what did he do? He skipped over to Elitzaphan. Elitzaphan's child. I'm sorry, he skipped over to Uziel. Uziel's child was Elitzaphan. So he skipped the order.
And Elitzaphan was the 4th boy.
Yeah.
Right?
No, Uziel was the 4th one.
Uziel was the 4th, yeah.
4th boy of who?
So he took...
Of the father of Amram.
So he took my cousin, who's like in the younger line than me. How could he do that? Now there's a big question over here that the Ramban asks. He says, I don't understand.
Amram, the father of Moses?
Amram was the father of Moshe. The Ramban asks like
4
this.
sons?
He doesn't understand.
The father of Amram had 4 sons.
Oh, the father of Amram. I got it.
Now he doesn't understand what's going on, says the Ramban. This happened a long time before the appointment happened many years beforehand.
The appointment of Uziel?
The appointment of Elitzaphan ben Uziel happened a long time beforehand. And also the appointment of Aharon. All of this happened beforehand.
Before what?
Like a long time before Korach's rebellion. So what happened over here all of a sudden that he's getting upset?
He harbored some ill feelings.
So obviously we see that he was harboring ill feelings, and these ill feelings were taking a long time to develop. Yeah? But why all of a sudden now? The answer is, beforehand, things were going good. When things are going good, he knew why it was going good. It was just after what happened. When did he appoint them as Nesi'im? Right after the Chet HaEgel. After the Chet HaEgel, what happened? Bnei Israel were supposed to be destroyed. And since Bnei Israel were supposed to be destroyed, let me just say, boy, at 10:05, yeah, was supposed to be destroyed. Bnei Israel were supposed to be destroyed by the sin of the golden calf, and Moshe Rabbeinu was the hero.
Yeah,
he came and he prayed for everyone, and since Moshe Rabbeinu came and prayed for everyone, so Hashem forgives. Moshe Rabbeinu was the national hero. Korach saw he couldn't say anything then, right? But what happened just last week's parasha? The spies. What happened because of the spies? Hashem said, I'm not going to deliver you. I'm not going to let these people come into Eretz Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't pray for them. So the people, they didn't get the... So right now everybody was upset at Moshe Rabbeinu. Why were they upset at Moshe Rabbeinu?
He didn't pray for them.
Because he didn't pray for them. It's not Moshe Rabbeinu's fault. It was their fault. No, they had to find a scapegoat. This is the nature of the human beings. You always have to find the victim. You have to find the scapegoat. Nowadays, if a guy does anything wrong, it's never his fault. Either it's his 1st grade teacher that gave him too much homework, or if it's his 4th grade teacher that looked at him the wrong way, or maybe it's his mother's fault that she didn't hug him enough, or maybe it's his father's fault that he was too tough on him. But it's never your fault anymore. It's never your fault anymore, It's the generation of the victims. The big V. Soon they're going to start blaming the guy that sells you suits.
Yep.
That's what it is. But the reality is that a person has to take accountability for himself. And over here, Korach saw that people didn't. No, it's not mine. People didn't take responsibility for themselves. They took responsibility for the other guy, and that's what the problem was. So because that was the case, Moshe Rabbeinu, but because that was the case, so Moshe Rabbeinu took all the blame from everyone, and because he took all the blame, the Korach was able to mount this rebellion. So even though it happened way beforehand. So that's lesson number 1 I wanted to bring up. All right? Lesson number 2. How do we deal with machloket? Lesson number 2. How do we deal with machloket? ויקח קורח בן יצחק וניסר בן לוי ודתן ואבירם בני אליאב. Now listen to this. They started up with Moshe Rabbeinu. How did they start up with Moshe Rabbeinu? The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin says like this. They started accusing Moshe Rabbeinu. Nitkanu. What does nitkanu? Means they were jealous. But it also comes from the word kinui. You know where the word what kinui means? Kinui also means that they suspected Moshe Rabbeinu, you're hanging around with the wrong people. In other words, they were suspecting him of chas v'shalom, going with other ladies. That's what Datan v'Aviram suspected him. So what would you expect Moshe Rabbeinu to do? What would you expect Moshe Rabbeinu to do? Somebody accuses him like that, he would have said, a chutzpah, after everything that I did for these people, he would have blasted them. Took his bazooka gun out. Instead, what did he do? He says he took his tent and he planted it out somewhere else. He didn't engage in machloket with them. So if you want to know how to deal, this is the second point I wanted to bring up today. If you want to know how to deal with machloket, you just don't say anything and you run away. You go the other side. You don't say anything. That's the way to deal with machloket. I saw somebody bring down, they know there's one rabbi, he's a very popular shul rabbi. He's very successful. His rule is that any time one of the members of the congregants accuses him of doing something, Rabbi, you did this, you came late to this because of that, you know, a lot of complaints.
You don't listen to him.
He's quiet. He doesn't engage. And it could make 5, 6, 7 years, the guy will come back to him, Yom Kippur, I'm sorry, Rabbi, you know, I realized that I misjudged you and I shouldn't have. But you don't engage, because that's the way to nip a machloket in a bud. You want to continue the machloket and keep on speaking. If you're quiet, the machloket stops right away.
Well, that goes for anything at home too. In a way.
Sure, any machloket.
Between, I'm talking about, man and a wife, right? Also the same thing.
The way how to nip a machloket in the bud is to keep quiet. That's what Moshe. But the important thing over here is that Moshe Rabbeinu had the power and the ability and the right to yell out at them, to yell back at them. Chutzpah! Who do you think you are? What did he do? He said nothing. He said nothing.
He was very humble also.
But when you don't say nothing, sometimes you make that person, the other person, very hungry.
Sometimes. But it's the best thing to do, because the other way you'll make him even more. You'll keep on going. You're quiet. You're quiet. You don't say. You don't engage. You don't engage in machloket, because machloket takes 2 people. Yeah. It takes 2 people to argue. It takes 2 people to argue. He says once there was a famous Rav. His name was the Rav from Panovich. Did I ever tell you about the Rav from Panovich?
Panovich, yeah.
Very, very smart Rav.
Panovich Rebbe.
The Panovich Rav. He would go after the Holocaust. He and his whole family was killed in the war. You can imagine how he was so depressed. He had every reason in the book to give up and to not continue. Instead, what did he do? He went around raising money. They said that he was so good, he was able to raise money and open up yeshivot. He was so good at being able to raise money, he could get money out of a stone. He used to go all over the world. Right after the Holocaust. People thought he was a crazy person. They say he lost his mind because, he would imagine on the hilltop of Bnei Brak he would build a beautiful yeshiva, the Panovich yeshiva, and he had this dream and people thought that he was hallucinating, that he lost his mind. But he wasn't hallucinating. He said, I had a dream and I'm going to fulfill my dream. It's after the Holocaust, we have to rebuild Torah. And that's what he did. He would go from place to place and sometimes he would get very embarrassed. Sometimes people would embarrass him. And one time in London, a person was extremely, extremely insolent against him, extremely embarrassing against him. And the rabbis of London wanted to put out a special proclamation to put that person into cherem, to put that person into excommunication. And the Panovich Rav didn't allow it. He says, I don't want any of it. They said, what do you mean you don't want any of it? I don't want to engage in machloket. I don't want to engage machloket. The Chafetz Chaim gave me a biracha that I'll be successful in everything besides in one thing. What did the Chafetz Chaim say I'm not going to be successful in? Machloket. That I'm never going to be successful in. Machloket. A person has to know when to engage and when to not engage. And you learn it from this week's parasha. The Datan v'Aviram wanted to start up with Moshe Rabbeinu. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? Walked away. Amazing, huh?
On what basis did they feel that he was seeing that? I mean, what was the
Nothing.
They just
baseless.
came out with a
Baseless.
Shemra, right?
Yeah. There's people nowadays that do that. Believe it or not, they go out, they make something up. They make something up as long as they could get some juicy piece of information, and that's it. They could destroy a person. That's the way the ball bounces. That's the reality of the world. So that's the second lesson. Third lesson. What happened in this week's parasha, if we continue? So Korach wanted to be the leader, and he had a whole following. How many people did he have a following?
250.
250. So what did he tell them? Zotasu. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, okay, fine, let's see who Hashem picks. Take for yourself a shovel with ketoret. Okay? And he says like this. Let's see who Hashem picks, where the fire is going to come down, and who it's going to accept. So, we all know the story that the ground opened up. Korach and Kol Adato fell in the ground.
But who held the Ketoret?
All of these 250 great people, and they were great people. Ve'esh yatsa me'et Adonai v'tochalet chayim mishum 200 ish. Interesting, right? What does it say in the next part, in the next verses after that? What are you going to do with all of these pans now? What are you going to do with all these leftover pans? What would you say we do with all these pans? That they tried to rebel against Moshe Rabbeinu. They tried to rebel against Moshe Rabbeinu. What are we going to do with these pans? You know what I would say you to do? Throw them out. They're treif. They're treif. How could you have the audacity to go against Moshe Rabbeinu? What does it say?
I know what they did.
What does it say they did?
I think they made mirrors for the womanhood.
Not the mirrors. Close. That's another thing. That's the mirrors was for the kiyur, was for the wash basin. But over here it says like this: Emor el Elazar ve'Aaron al-Kohen ve'yarem et machtot mi ben hasifra. Go take out all these shovels. Ve'eta esh zara halaki kadeshu et machtot achatot ha'elu b'nafshotam ve'asu otam reki pachim tzapui lemizbeach. Make for them a covering for the mizbeach. Ki kruvam lifnei Adonai ve'kadshu ve'yiloot lebnei Yisrael, because they sacrificed them. What do you mean they sacrificed them? These guys were rebels. They fought against Moshe Rabbeinu. They're treif. What are they going to start taking these shovels and making something holy out of them? The answer is like this. There's nothing black and white. These people, think about it. They were great people, even Korah. They wanted to become closer to Hashem. Why, Moshe Rabbeinu, are you the only connection? We also, we're also holy. Inside their rebellion, there was a tinge of being holy and wanting to become closer to Hashem. Yeah?
It's like the Meraglim. They wanted to stay in the desert and study Torah and be closer to Hashem.
Right.
Same principle.
Exactly. They wanted to find something that they could... they were wrong. Their intentions were wrong. But they had an inspiration of good. That inspiration of good, Hashem said, I recognize as well. It does not go for naught. That inspiration also means something to me. That inspiration also means something to me. Make something on the Mizbeach out of it. Amazing, huh? Okay, now, we go on further in the parasha. So, "Ed machtot achatayim elim navzam ve'asu otam reki pachim tzapun yozeh yulizdeha ve'ikazhu ve'yolod ibn Yisrael ve'ikach Elazar HaKohen machtot nachoshet shekivu ha'serafim ve'yakum tzipul ha'mizbeach זיכרון לבני ישראל למען אשר לא יקריב איש זר אשר לא מזרע אהרון ולהקטיר קטורת לפני אדוני. And it should be a remembrance that somebody who is not anointed should not bring this korban in front of Hashem. Okay. Now, obviously, this started a chain reaction, and there were people who started dying until Moshe Rabbeinu once again prayed for Am Yisrael. Okay. Now.
So my question though is that if God is so merciful, why would He let so many thousands of people just die?
That's the question. I have a customer of mine all the time. He comes to me. He says, Joe, how are you? I said, Baruch Hashem. Where was Hashem when I need Him?
What, the Holocaust?
In the Holocaust. All the time he answered me, enough of telling me Baruch Hashem. I said, for you and for me it's different. That's all. But what is the answer to give him to this guy?
There's no answer. What are we supposed to answer a person?
What do you want?
A question like this, there's no answer. There's no answer. We understand that Hashem works in very, very sublime ways, and we don't understand all of God's plans in the world. We don't understand all of God's plans in the world. There's nothing you can answer him. You have to say, it's one of the mysteries of the world. And the people that came into the Holocaust with strong emunah, they left with even stronger emunah. Because they saw God, that God wanted this one to live and this one not to live. The one who iffy at the beginning went out denying Hashem totally after the Holocaust.
Oh, I know.
So it was sad circumstances. Okay, we're not going to be able to go too much further, Rabotai, because it's late and it took us a while to get started. But I just want to end off with one more point. You know, one of the interesting things is that when Korah came to challenge Moshe Rabbeinu, so he told him like this. Moshe Rabbeinu, he started challenging Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, let me ask you something. A house that's full of Sfarim, does it need a mezuzah? So Moshe Rabbeinu says, yes. They started laughing. What's the whole purpose of a mezuzah? To protect you, but over here you have the whole room is full of mezuzahs. What do you need it? Second question, he says, a talit that is all tchelit, it's all a blue color. Does it need a string blue? He says no. He says yes, it still needs. He says, what do you mean? The whole thing is blue. You also need a blue string? No. What was he thinking, Korah? I mean, like, he knew that there are certain things that are laws into place. You can't just, like, according to reasons, bend them. Why did he all of a sudden think that he could make fun of Moshe Rabbeinu by this? So the answer is like this. Moshe Rabbeinu, how did he know these halachot? Only because Hashem told him. Korah was saying, who says that you... Korah was challenging the whole premise of all our laws that we know that Moshe Rabbeinu got them exclusively from Hashem. Korah is saying, Korah was saying that instead of believing what Moshe Rabbeinu said, we should figure things out on our own. That gets very dangerous, because if something starts going into the human discretion, that he could decide what's good, what's not good, it's a very slippery path. It's a very slippery path, and that was the mistake that Korah made. That despite the fact that you think that you have to be able to have leadership to tell you, you know, this is our tradition that we got. You can't start making up things on your own. All right, these are a couple of lessons we got from Korah. We had to make the shiur a little bit shorter this week because of the late time. But Be'ezrat Hashem, that's a good thing to take home with us.